And welcome to another Dawn and Julia Create. So Dawn has set the challenge this time and she has asked us to make a one layer card. I think this is hilarious because I have challenged Dawn to do that on a number of occasions and it took her a while to get it right, not gonna lie. She quite often sneaked another layer on and so I kept setting it as a challenge until she did one layer and now she's getting me back. Hilarious, love it. Anyway, so not only are we to make a one layer card, we are only allowed one stamp set and one medium. Yeah. So I am going to go with this one, Daisy Do. I have had a look at my various stamps. I think I'm going to go for a nice simple floral card today. And I'm also thinking that I might use watercolours because they're a little bit more flexible. So because I'm using watercolours, I am actually going to make my own card base from this card stock, which is the Dolly Dimples Mixed Media card. So it takes multiple mediums, which on this occasion we don't need, but it also works really well with watercolours, which is what I am going to do. So without further ado, and without further waffle, let's get started.
So I am pulling out my trusty trimmer. This is a bargain from Lidl's. I've got lots of posh trimmers that I bought from professional craft companies, but this little cheapest chip things that I got from Lidl's tends to be my go-to trimmer. So yeah, just chopping down my card, going to fold it over using a bone folder, and that is just to make sure that I get a nice smooth edge to the spine of my card, and this will be the base that we will work on. Now I did say that I would use watercolours, but the other day when I was recording the Crafting Together with All Brands YouTube video, I pulled out some twinkling H2Os. I cannot tell you how many years years and years it has been since I have used these, and you know when you sort of rediscover an old favourite. So I decided to pull these out because essentially they are watercolours. So I've got a few different colours that I plan to work with today. I have some really interesting shaped paints because they've obviously dried on their sides or goodness knows what. So I'm having fun sort of fixing those. Just spraying a bit of water into each of them to activate them. They work the exact same as watercolours. And yeah, here we go. So what I'm doing is taking a stamping block and I am putting a selection of blues and iridescent golds on there, and I'm just going to build up a background. I quite often do this with distress ink, but you can do it just as easily with watercolour. I do find though you need to sort of dry between the layers, otherwise it all just becomes very smooth because obviously you're working with water and it blends out. So to get that texture, do dry in between each layer. Now I have pulled out the Daisy Do stamp set and I am using my VersaFine clear ink because we are going to be watercolouring. And so again, now I'm going to be using these as actual paints. So if you are limiting yourself to one supply, it is good to use a supply that you can use in multiple ways, and watercolour is good for that. You can build up a background, you can actually stamp with watercolour as well, and obviously you can use it for colouring in. I'm just going for a very loose look this time. Quite often when I use alcohol markers I'm very controlled and look at all the shading and stuff, but watercolours is when I just sort of keep it loose, don't worry about too much, just have a very sort of easy ozy approach to it, and it's nice for a change. So I decided I wanted it to almost look like there was blossoms coming from the flower, so I'm just now flicking a bit of colour. I decided to pull out a dotting tool because this stamp has little polka dots on the skirt of the flower, and I was finding it really difficult to get that with a brush to get a nice controlled look. So this is a tip I picked up from the Mariah Elizabeth channel that my daughter loves, and I just used the dotting tool to colour in those little bits. I actually had to message Dawn and say, am I allowed a black pen? I did bribe her with a cocktail for her to say yes, because it wasn't actually on the challenge notes that she gave me, but I was allowed to use it, so I'm very happy. And then I decided to just stamp the sentiment as a border. Now when you work on a one layer card like this, you can warp the card with watercolour, so I just had it underneath a pile of books for the night to straighten it out. I do that a lot, and here is the card all finished. Please do check out what the lovely Dawn has done, and if you would like to see more uses for the twinkling H2Os, you might want to enjoy watching this video right here.